Hi guys, I'm back. Day 2 of the things the coaching industry won't tell you, but I will. And 10 truths that exist in the coaching industry that no one will tell you, but I will. Because you need to know, with love. Yesterday we covered websites. As a former web designer and marketer, I ran a web design and marketing agency before I transitioned over I made a life choice, before I transitioned over into selling with service and running the sales school for entrepreneurs. So I've been in that marketing lane for a long time, a decade now in the internet coachy space, small business lane specifically, entrepreneur for 20 years. And I know that there are a lot of really well-intentioned people out there, coaches coaching coaches, which I never thought I would be, but here I am, a coach coaching coaches. I'm a strategist, not a coach, I'm a strategist. But there's a lot of really well-intentioned people out there, and everything that I'm saying in this 10-part series, and if you want to skip ahead to catch the full, where I go through all 10 of them, you can go into my Facebook group, Entrepreneurs Who Overdeliver, and I did an hour training on all 10 of them if you want to fast forward through. Otherwise, I'm dripping them out one a day. My Christmas present to you. There's a lot of well-intentioned people out there, and they're not wrong for what they're teaching at all. I mean, unless they are, right? Then, you can sniff that out pretty easily. But this isn't bashing anybody in the space. This isn't bashing anybody in the marketing space. This isn't bashing other business coaches or anything like that. That's not at all my intention. What I know to be true is that too many times, it's just a function of putting the cart before the horse. That's really what it comes down to. It's not to say that you don't need any of the things that I'm talking about. It's not to say that these concepts are wrong, that you don't need to have a client avatar. You do, absolutely. I just want to talk to you about reconsidering how you're looking at it. And that's what the coaching industry isn't going to break down for you. The narrative, the word on the street in the coaching industry is that you have to have a client avatar to get out there. You have to know who your ideal person is before you start working with anyone. You have to clearly define the blah bitty blahs before. You don't. That is trying to get it right. Better not fail me today. The reality is done is better than perfect, always. And the second reality to that is clarity comes through action and conversation. Confusion comes from thought. So if you're sitting there trying to think your way to who you think your ideal client avatar person is, you're thinking from a limited space. You're thinking from where you are, not where you're going to be. Smack it into next week. It is. It's being... all right, cool. So... the avatar is not something that you need to have in... Nothing seems to be working. Of course. Why would it work when I want to go live? You do need to have an avatar at some point. And I'll talk to you about how it's down a few things. Do you need to know the client avatar? Not right now when you're just getting started. Thank you, Lorna. I'm glad you agree. I want to talk about how you use... what the avatar is and how it's being used. I think before you step into any activity, you need to understand WTF. Yes, that, but also what's the function of this? What's the function of the client avatar? How am I, so that I can... I'm nervous that this isn't working, but Lorna, I see that you're on, so I'm hoping things are going in the right direction. So what it's being used for is it is a lens. It's at everyone and everything. And a lot of times when we're in early stages of our service-based business, coaches, service providers, business coaches, trying to think who else is in there, relationship coaches, executive coaches, trying to think who else we have, financial coaches, those sort of things, right? Who can you help? Well, coach, I really could help anyone. As a relationship coach, everyone's in a relationship or was or needs to be or wants to be or whatever, right? Not needs to be. I take that back. I don't know. Relationship will be at some point, is in one, whatever. So you technically can help anyone. Money coaches. Everyone has money, needs money, wants more money, right? I mean, we all need to get our act together in that lane to one degree or another, right? There's always opportunities for improvement. So through that lane, you can help anyone. The purpose of the client avatar is so you're not doing that, right? It's to give you some parameters of focus. It's to start culling it down so that when you're out there doing your search activities to find new people to talk to, you're finding a more focused lane. Let me pick on financial coaches for a minute, or even doesn't matter. Do you want to work with people or businesses? Do you want to work with women or men? Not sure, right? Some people are saying, well, I can work with either. I prefer to work with women. I've got some really awesome dudes in my world too. But my lens is definitely on helping women close the gender wage gap and that sort of thing. But we totally have to have some men in the party. So I welcome that. My marketing specifically is towards women. But it doesn't mean that I don't work with men. So a lot of people, when you're thinking about your avatar, there's the conversation of you have to choose. And that's usually one of the first things that they start to think about is it a man or a woman? And they get stuck because they're not at a point yet to make that decision. So take that question out of the equation. You don't need that information. That usually is the point where people don't know, so then they stop, so then they start to go down the shame spiral. Well, if I can't figure out who I'm helping, then I can't get out there and I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not showing up with confidence, so then they stop showing up. And this is where I say, you do not need to know your client avatar until your client avatar shows up and tells you who they are. It's putting the cart before the horse to try to figure it out blindly. You have an idea. I definitely want to help these people. I definitely don't want to help these type of people. But the clarity is going to come through conversation and action. The confusion is going to come from thought. And not even that the confusion is going to come from thought. It's that the inaction is going to come from thought. You are going to get yourself stuck. And stuck helps no one. It doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't move the needle forward at all. So a cure for this is getting into action, getting into conversations with people. This is why and where I teach the Conversation Creation Challenge for free in the Facebook group so that you can get out there, get into action, get into conversations with people, and start figuring things out in motion. If you had told me 5 years ago, if you had told me 10 years ago I'd be running a sales training company, I would have laughed at you probably in your face. I would have been like, yeah, whatever. Like, it sounds cool, but like, have you met me? Like, that's not my jam. If you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be running the sales school for entrepreneurs and my client base is primarily someone who values the education, hence the name sales school, who is certified in their form of coaching modality or has a degree in something or something of that nature. If you had told me that my client avatar is someone who not only, absorbs information visually and audibly, but also really prefers to read things like transcripts of conversations, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Nobody reads. Nobody reads. I'm an extrovert. I would blow an introvert out of the water. A lot of my clients are introverts. I have them do the Myers-Briggs on the way in the door. They are I's. I'm all E, right? I would not have been able to figure out who my client avatar was, and I would have had them pegged completely differently, and everything would have been off. Matter of fact, it was. And it cost me a lot of years, and I wasn't able to help a lot of people in those years because I was trying to get it right. When I started to shift and listen more, which is what ultimately shifted me into the lane that I'm in, when I really started to listen more in the conversations, that's when I started to hear who the people were, how they were showing up, what was working to get them to the conversations. And I really only listen to the people that are giving me money. If you're not a client, I'm interested in what you have to say, but the weight of which I'm going to take it in is very, very small. If you're in my world, I'm going to listen to everything you have to say, right? And that's how I'm going to grow the business. So the question then becomes, for the newbies out there, well, how do you get people in the door? The conversation creation challenge. I teach you how to get people to your calendar so you can have conversations with people, market research conversations, networking conversations, so you can figure this out. Because ultimately, the way that the client avatar is used, you don't know who your person is, right? All of these things are upside down and backwards in terms of the order of operation that they're telling you to get things accomplished in. It's very limiting in your early days if you're spinning your wheels trying to figure this out. What you need to be doing instead, in my opinion, in my experience, is understanding how to have conversations with people, understanding what you are listening for, framing questions so that you're extracting the right information to be of value to you, market research conversations, and then taking that information and knowing how to apply that in your business, and being discerning to understand when you have someone in front of you who could potentially be a fun fit to play with. How do you then dance them into that conversation? Right? So out your client avatar prematurely and getting all your marketing right prematurely, and right doesn't happen anyway, a better use of your time, and it's free, by the way, I was going to say money, but it's free, by the way, is having conversations with people. When you are having conversations with people, you are on the receiving end of information. That is I was going to say liquid gold, but it's like air gold, right? It's priceless. Priceless. When you're on a networking conversation with someone, a market research call, and they're like, so tell me about what you do. I hate that question. What do you do? I always ask, tell me about the work that you do. But when someone asks, what do you do? That, first of all, that's one of the reasons why you're not getting on the phone networking with people, is because you don't know how to answer that. There's no right way to answer that. Elevator pitch is dead. Nobody goes in elevators. We all have masks on. We don't talk to each other if we even go places and see people and do things. So you don't have to answer that, right? It's how you navigate those conversations, and you have to understand what the function of that other person on the phone is. So it's less about having the right answers to those conversations and more about understanding how to navigate those conversations. I'll just give you a quick, because I'm an over-deliverer, this is what I do. And when someone asks you, so what do you do? And you don't have your big flowery, well, I work with women in transition who are, considering changes in their lives, or whatever the hell they're teaching you, those flowery garbage to say out there that you're like glossed over and you get a bobblehead response for. Say instead, I'm working on defining my market, but I'm really, I enjoy working with women that have been divorced, right? You don't have to get it right. When you're trying to get it right in these conversations, what you're doing is saying, I'm not open to receiving information. I'm not coachable. I'm not a human. I'm going to end up selling you something. When you're human and you show up, like, that's a great question. I always struggle with that one. I work best with stories sell, facts tell. You could answer that question by saying, well, the last client I worked with that I really enjoyed actually was a single mom, or blah, blah, blah. You have to think about those conversations. What is the purpose of that? What are they doing with that information, right? Are you telling them what you do and who you help? Why? So they can do something with that information. So your flowery script that you just paid somebody a comma to come up with, or spent weeks or months or whatever trying to figure out the right thing to say, it's crap. Sorry. I want the other person to talk first in a conversation. This is exactly what I teach you. I teach you how to run a networking call in the Conversation Creation Challenge. I want the other person to talk first about what they do. So when I answer a version of what I do, it's relevant to them, right? If they are an executive at IBM, am I going to tell them that I run, am I going to tell them something about, maybe I picked a bad example. Nope, there's no bad example. If I'm on the phone with an executive at IBM, I'm not going to tell them, well, I work with solo entrepreneurs who are looking to reach the entrepreneurial minimum wage of $120,000 or be like, I've lost her. She's gone. She floated away a long time ago. What I'm going to say, something to the effect of, oh, you're an executive at IBM. That's great. And I'm listening to everything that she says. Sorry, just give me a second while I kind of get in the zone. So I'm listening to what she says. She tells me she's an executive at IBM, and I would probably not talk about Sales School for Entrepreneurs because I wouldn't necessarily connect the relevant dots. But what I would say is that's awesome. I've partnered with a few large organizations to give my keynote. Excuse me, ma'am, your wage gap is showing with their women's empowerment, organizations within their company. I want to know who the person is I'm talking to so that I can use my words to make it relevant to them. Because at the end of the day, if I'm thinking any other way, I'm in sales energy. If I'm thinking I have to close this person, I have to sell to this person, I'm in sales energy. And when you're thinking about your client avatar in such a limiting lens, you're in sales energy. Would you rather think like this? I mean, you got to have horsey blinders on to a degree, right? You can't be thinking like this, like I can help anybody. Even Walmart, even Target has a target, right? It's like a woman in yoga pants who you're not sure if she's drinking wine or coffee, but it's not your business, so don't worry about it. Mind your business. But that's like Target's target, right? So even Target has a target, but it's you have to have some kind of lens, right? But you can't start with it like this because you've been doing, but the number of people that step into the coaching space that are doing, the reality is you're figuring out who you enjoy working best with. You're figuring out who enjoys, who gets the most value from working with them. And you cannot figure this out. You have to much rather get paid to do this market research than I firmly believe and teach and preach. Sales school is the last investment that they make out of their own pocket. All of this other stuff is paid for by the business. The goal is to get you paid by somebody for doing something so that the business is starting to generate revenue so that you can invest in the different things that you need to, like the website I talked about yesterday and some of the other things that are going to blow your mind over the next few days that I have coming up of information. Like I said, if you want to jump ahead to all 10 things that I talk about, go into Entrepreneurs Who Overdeliver on Facebook. I've got the whole training in there for an hour where I go through all 10 of the things. Otherwise, check back tomorrow. I'm going to be dropping another bomb on you that you would not expect coming from the CEO of Selling with Service and the founder of the Sales School for Entrepreneurs. Yes, I'm talking about something about sales that nobody else is going to tell you. So stay tuned tomorrow. And I am uploading these onto YouTube. So if you're catching me there, thanks for being here. Like, share, subscribe. And for those of you on Facebook catching the lives, love you. Be back around the same time tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. And yeah, bye.